So what would your top tips be for growing your rent roll?
Oh, I've literally got 50 different activities that you can engage in growing the rent roll, but I'll give you my top ones.
Yep.
And these are actually strategies that I used in my career of property management, so they're not learnt from a textbook. I grew a rent roll over a 2-year period from about 180 properties to over 400, so they do work. The first tip, and the first tip is a lot of the times the business is right under your very nose. Yep. I often have conversations with BDMs and business owners, principals that say, Deb, look, we're really struggling at the moment. The sales market is tight. We're losing properties from our rent roll and we don't seem to be gaining them and we're going backwards. What is it that we can do? And that they look at marketing activities, advertising, spending lots of money, going outside of the four walls of their agency. And my first tip is often the business is right under your very nose. And I think to be successful at growing the rent roll, it's all about having a focus of seeing the opportunities. And I share a little story just to explain that. And let's say this morning you woke up to drive here to the studio and you're driving along the road, and what do you see on the road?
A lot of cars this morning. There was a lot of cars.
There was a lot of cars.
A lot of cars,
Did you
traffic
see anything
lights,
else?
people.
Traffic lights, people, yeah. Anything else?
Speed cameras.
Speed cameras.
Lots of them on the highway at the moment.
Yeah, so driving here today, you saw big cars, little cars, maybe
Yep.
some taxis, some buses, as you said, people walking along. And that's generally if people notice anything when driving to work or to inspections. But let's say I say to you, okay, Damien, a big part of what I love doing in coaching is setting new goals. So I want you to set a new goal that in 12 months' time, you're going to buy your dream car.
Yep.
Because you've got a goal and you're going to work super hard. So what's your dream car? I'll give me any car.
Any car.
Any car.
Commodore. What's the Commodore?
Commodore?
Commodore.
Like a nice, hotted up Commodore?
Nice hotted up Commodore.
Okay, that's a bit of a bloke car.
With
so I
4
don't really...
doors.
It's got 4 doors?
It's got 4 doors.
Is 4 doors important?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay, it's got big mag wheels. Anyway, you're getting a Commodore.
Yeah.
So tomorrow morning, now you've set yourself a goal and you are focused on buying a Commodore, and I guarantee you there is so many people listening that have had this experience happen to them that when you get in the car the next day and you're buying a Commodore, all of a sudden Commodores are the only thing that you see on the road.
Yeah.
And they're Commodores everywhere. They're the most common car, where the day before you saw no Commodores because you didn't have that focus. And I think that's the first thing I share when I do our growth workshops is today is about getting you focused. So when you leave, you go back to the agency, all of the tips and the ideas that I've given to you will automatically become a focus. And the business right under your very nose is working your current landlords and tenants. And that's where I think it's important to have a dedicated person, a BDM, that can also do client service calls, or what I refer to as happy calls. Because there's so many landlords, current landlords, that either own other investment properties. They might have bought it from another agent, and just when it's easy to let them manage it. You can have a conversation with your landlords. Do they know of anyone else that owns a management property in the area. And equally tenants. I think the dynamics of tenants have changed. A lot of tenants are renting that have investment properties. So the business right under your very nose is just an awareness of asking the question, even asking your tradespeople. When the tradespeople come in, instead of going, how did you go at 4 Blue Street and there was a dog that almost bit my leg off, but ask the people, do you own a management property? I know when I was doing property management, that was just my sole focus. When I would go and get a sandwich, I'd say, do you know of anyone that's got an investment property? Or it was just a constant question that I used to ask. So I think look at the business right under your very nose, come up with a strategic plan to contact all of your landlords and tenants with a focus to bring on new managements. And it's also a great way to, I guess, show them that you care and improve your service. It's not just a tenants vacating, tenants behind in their rent, which is why I call them happy calls. So that's the first one. What's right under your nose, ask the question. Now, the next one is nothing new. It's not rocket science. You've probably heard it at every conference, workshop, training event you go to, which is referrals. Yep. And when I was in property management, there was no BDMs back then. So you had to do property management and you did the BDM and everything together. So I strategically did sit down and work out how can I use limited time to reach a maximum number of investors, which I guess is networking. So I identified all the key people that investors may come in contact with, like
mortgage brokers, accountants, financial planners,
bank lending officers, conveyancers, solicitors, everyone that's involved in the transaction of buying an investment property ultimately. And then what I did is I went out and I developed the relationship with them. So just introduced myself. I've been in the area for 10 years, really passionate about property management. We're looking at growing the rent roll. Would you be happy to refer us business? And back then, and this is the secret, this is the key, and I know that there is some legislation based around gifts and referral fees, but I had a $25 referral budget. So with inflation, CPI, I don't know, maybe you need to double or triple that. But if I received a referral, and there was one company, it was a conveyancing company that did a huge amount of settlements on investment properties. But what I'd do and you've got to have all your marketing material, so I'd leave them a little flyer introducing our service. So not the whole company profile, but just a little tag phrase that's a little more than a business card. Yep. And coming back to the sizzle, those, whether it's a target card or a DL brochure, it needs to have an attention-grabbing heading like, we've found someone to pay the rent if your tenants won't, because landlords are going to go, oh, who's going to pay the rent, and what's that promoting?
So, landlord insurance.
Landlord insurance. But it's still, the landlord reads it and it's going to attract their attention to generate the call. But with the $25 budget, I would send out a bunch of flowers, a bottle of wine. There was either like movie tickets, lunch tickets, little hamper packs. So if I got 3 or 4 different successful new management referrals, that person, that conveyancing officer during the week would get flowers, chocolates, pamper pack, lunch voucher. And it wasn't until I went to their Christmas party, had a couple of wines, and they said, Deb, we just love you. We get spoiled every single week. Sometimes we fight over who can introduce you to our client. just so they can get the gift. I mean, imagine if every single week you got a bottle of whiskey or you got a new gold pen or something. Like, I think I had the people in the community working harder for me sometimes than they were their own business owners. And in closing, one of my favorite ones, which was really, really successful, is working all of the potential investors. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say you've got a sales department and you've got a property for sale, and potentially it could be an investment property. You have an open house. You might have, depending on the market conditions, 10 to 50 people go through that open house that's for sale. And generally the agency is only successful in the purchaser of the property for the new management. But what I used to do, and I think you really need to sit down and have a look at your open house register and make sure you've incorporated a column. I know a lot of people are using iPad sign-ins, but make sure you ask the question, are they a home occupier looking to purchase a principal place of residence, or are they an investor? On a Monday and Tuesday, I would then get all these open house contact details, even if it was an inquiry over the telephone from the salespeople, and I would touch base with all of them. And I would say, hi, it's Debbie from PPM Group Real Estate. Just touching base to introduce myself. I noticed you looked at 4 Blue Street with John on the weekend. I've got some really good information about maximising your income and some tips on being an investor. I can email that out to you complimentary. I can also give you feedback if you find an investment property, and I'd say to them, even if it's through another agent, I mean, I'm here at any time for you to ask a question. I'm happy to give you a complimentary appraisal. I can give you tips on what tenants are looking for. So if you're undecided between a 4-bedroom and a 3-bedroom, and honestly, we picked up so many managements when they purchased through other agencies because I already had that connection with the investor. So instead of connecting with just the potential buyer, you want to connect, contact, and build your database of every single investor.